Hey there, folks. Welcome to an OU Insider post-practice blitz, the first of the fall for us as Oklahoma gets rolling in preparation for their 2024 football season. First day of practice was yesterday, July 31st, a Wednesday. They were back on the practice field today, the 1st of August. They will open their season on the 30th of this month at home on a Friday night against Temple. Pads aren't on yet, Brandon, but we did get an initial opportunity to speak with the two highest profile transfers of the spring window for Oklahoma in Dominic Williams and Branson Hickman. We also got to speak with Nick Anderson and Peyton Bowen, two guys that
Yeah.
obviously have been around and are expected to play a huge role for Oklahoma again here in 2024 as they look to become a contender immediately in the SEC.
I I think we've been all begging to be able to talk to, specifically, I think Dominic Williams,
Yeah.
after just because he was kind of the prize fighter, right? Of the transfer portal class. Like that is everybody was all about him throughout the spring, and rightfully so. He comes in ballyhooed, he comes in well regarded with awards, being a former first team freshman All American, 2-time first team All Big 12 defensive tackle. Like he's that dude, and he deserved it. I thought, Parker, you and I both been throwing quotes out on Twitter that he set out, and I spent the whole 15 minutes that he did the interview with him, and he was good, man. He was good. He not only was good, he had some banger quotes, and the the one I think outside of the disdain that he had for Branson Hickman because TCU SMU arch rival center defensive tackle, it was a dislike made in heaven, I guess, if you want to word it like that. He was asked about a few things that really stood out, but one in particular was, what do you think of this defense? Like what is the expectations of this defense? And he adamantly, very quickly said, to be number one. That's the goal. To
Mhm.
be the number one defense in all of college football. Anything less than that is you're not reaching your goal. And whoa, like that's a quote from a dude that's only been to 2 practices.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you come to Oklahoma with the expectation that you're going to be able to compete for championships. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we understand there was a lot of NIL money involved in getting Dominic Williams to Oklahoma, as there was going to be for whatever school landed his services. But the common thread amongst the schools that did pursue him and did emerge as one of the finalists for his pledge is that all of those teams have championship aspirations in 2024. How realistic are those
Mm.
aspirations? It differs school to school, but all four of his final contenders when it came time to make the decision were schools that expect to be in the college football playoff hunt right there in the thick of the race
Yep.
in 2024. So love to hear that Dominic Williams is settling for nothing less than shooting for the stars in what may be his only year at Oklahoma. And as we've discussed, Brandon, I think you hope this is his only year at
Yeah.
Oklahoma, because if it's his only year, it means his draft stock is really, really high come next April. And that necessarily means that he had an outstanding season in 2024 with the Sooners.
Do people know that he's only 19 years old?
That's crazy, man.
He turns, I believe, September 9th. He turns 20. I was talking to somebody around him after we did the interview. I called said person that is he because he spoke about his mentor. So I called his mentor, and I was just, well, I didn't really call him. He called me because I texted him about another thing, but it was very interesting to hear that. And I think he and David Stone kind of fit hand in hand, right? Because David Stone's a young guy. Like he's turning, I believe, 19 later on this season. So like he's a young guy. I think in November, David turns 19. So and Dominic talked about David and Jaden, and you brought that up like it may be his only year. He said, no matter what, 1 year, 2 year, I plan on leaving it in good hands. And as long as David Stone and Jaden Jackson are at the University of Oklahoma, the defensive tackle room will be left in fantastic hands.
Yeah.
Another great quote. Another great quote and another telling sign of how they've meshed and become really good friends.
Yeah.
And I was told that Dominic from the source I talked to today has that is true. Like he has really taken David Stone under his wings and made him kind of allowed David to shadow him everywhere he goes.
Now, we haven't gotten to watch practice yet. We hope that that'll be the case in the coming days, because obviously it'll be great to get eyes on the team, see what they actually look like, see which guys have not only made gains in terms of their weight addition under Schmitty, but which guys make that jump and look like they're ready to make a serious impact. Look at that rising crop of sophomores, I think, is the
Yeah.
group that probably carries the most intrigue. But we got to talk to Nick Anderson, as I mentioned. Man, he looks awesome. He looks amazing physically.
Focused.
Looks, yes. And he, that's who he is. Like he's always focused, always an intense character. He'll crack a smile every now and again. He'll have some fun, but he's a very intense dude when it's time to put the pads on and go to work. And just having the chance to interact with him for what, 8-10 minutes today. I think what stands out to me is his frame looks perfect. Like if you were to chisel a wide receiver out of stone, you'd want it to look exactly like Nick Anderson looks now. 6'4", 216 pounds. And we saw what he's capable of last fall. Can burn you deep. He can work you in the intermediate. You get the ball in his hands in the short game, he can make stuff happen after the catch. And so I'm so excited. I know Deion Burks probably gets the majority of the hype at this point and has throughout the offseason in that wide receiver room. But man, it's hard to look past Nick Anderson. It's going to be really tough for opposing defensive coordinators to look past the danger that Nick Anderson brings every single time he lines up for the Sooners this fall.
Yeah, he looked great. Obviously, you know, the a few times that my son was training with Jackson and he was there running routes. He's so big. He's so big, dude. Like, what do you say he weighed? 216? Something to
216.
that. Yeah, something to that extent. That's crazy. That's crazy. And he just exudes confidence. He exudes everything that you want in a leader in that room. Like he's all business all the
Well,
time.
you know what it reminded me of, Brandon? I made this comment on the radio earlier. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Jalen Hurts.
It did very short, concise answers, like economy of words type deal. And he didn't really give a lot, but you don't expect a lot when you interview any Anderson. I'm gonna be honest, like this goes back to Rodney, like they're just
Yeah.
quiet guys. And so it's who they are and why they're successful at the collegiate level. It feels like every one of those kids have been. And so I expect him to have a big year. You love the fact that he's been working with Jackson Arnold. When asked about Taylor Tatum, I haven't paid attention to the running backs. I worry about who I'm blocking and just let them do their thing. Like I was like, hey,
Yeah,
you're
that
not going
that
to get
right there
much
is a
out of him.
Jalen Hurts type quote.
Yes, very much. Yes, very
Yeah.
much
Then the
so.
the last thing I think of note today, Brandon, is Branson Hickman might be one of the sweatiest people I've ever laid eyes on. If you if what you like in your future starting center is for him to like be the epitome of just a hard working lunch pail dude,
It's a hog
that's
molly.
Branson Hickman. That's
Yeah.
Brand. Yeah, Hogma. That's a good way of putting it. That's exactly what he is. He's not that tall. He's listed at 6'2", but just very dense, very
Mhm.
muscular, and similarly, that the type of guy that is all business, or at least that's how he presents himself.
Yeah. He's instantly taken. Look, he and Dominic Williams instantly came in and from what I was told, Dominic Williams even said it. Schmitty kind of thrust them into the leadership role,
Yeah.
like right it from the cusp. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out during the season because obviously we reported on OU Insider about 10 days ago the camaraderie between the offensive line and how it's been built throughout this offseason and that it if they can get that to show on the field, they should be pretty successful because of talents, a lot of experience there, particularly with the first seven guys. And in particular with your center, the guy that has to know everything, making all the calls, right? He's a smart guy. And Dominic Williams said that he was one of the tougher centers that he went up against all last season. So that's good news. What has he had? One sack allowed in how many starts?
33. He started 33 games at the
And how many
position.
pass blocking attempts? Something like 1,100. That's
Yeah,
stupid.
I mean, and that's why you brought that guy in. You brought him in to be an immediate answer when Troy Everett went on the shelf, and you were suddenly faced with the reality that you were probably going to have to thrust a redshirt freshman and Josh Bates into that role. Fortunately, Hickman was there, still available in the transfer
Mm.
portal. He'd been there in there for almost 3 months at that point, and that was it, man. And as Branson kind of explained his rationale for coming to OU, it really he made it sound like a match made in heaven, and I think in many ways it is because it's close to home for him. It gives him the opportunity to level up and play SEC ball. And another reason he cited was, hey, Jackson Arnold's a really good quarterback, and you
Yeah.
want to be playing with a really good quarterback because a really good quarterback is going to help you win a lot of football games, especially
Did,
if you're strong on the other side of the ball.
I didn't get to watch the full thing of his. I got like maybe 10 minutes in or so, or I guess I don't know how long the thing was, but I got to like the last 2 minutes and didn't really get to finish it. Did he say why? And maybe I missed this part. Did he say why it took so long for him to find a spot in the portal, being in there for 3 months?
I don't think
Because
he was asked
somebody of
about that.
his, okay,
Well, and I think what it boils down to, and again, I'm assuming here, but he didn't have to make a decision in any particular hurry. He was going to stay at
yep,
SMU throughout the spring to finish out his degree. And so he
mm,
wasn't going to go anywhere until June, regardless of where he picked and how
gotcha,
soon he picked it.
gotcha, okay. Well, that makes sense. And then obviously Peyton Bowen, he's still Peyton. Like he's still that very. He's not laid back. I don't want to. I don't want to. You know, kind of misrepresent who he is as a person and as a football player, but he's fun in interviews. Like he'll joust back and forth with you. He'll have some fun because he's got a great personality. But there was a little tweak to him. I felt today like a maturity that we didn't see last year with him. But did you kind of pick up on that as well?
I wasn't in the scrum with Peyton, so I
Did you
can't speak
watch
to
it?
that, but
You didn't
I
watch
have
that
not
one? Okay.
watched it.
Okay. So I picked up on a little bit of maturity. Just a tinge extra maturity in him and talking to people, that's kind of been the MO and kind of the what everybody else has noticed of him is like he's really taking this. He knows he's not going to play in front of Billy Bowman. I think that is without question. That's the case. That is he and Danny Stutzman are the dogs on the defense. You're going to follow them. I think Dominique Williams and Dejon Terry were probably the other guys that you look towards, and Woody Washington is okay. Those are our leaders, but he's got a chance to be the next in line. And you're starting to kind of, I feel like you're seeing that evolution a little bit and how he answered. And from what you hear of him this offseason is he's not showing up late to things. He's on time to everything. He's doing the small things now and really being a voice for the younger guys because now he isn't the new kid on the block. He's got some, you know, some wrinkles underneath, some wear on the tires, if you will. And now those new kids coming in, Boganowski, you know, um, Powers, all those guys, Hardy, they're looking towards him. Okay, what do I need to do? Much like he looks towards Billy Bowman, right? And so that he talked about that a little bit, how it's been great being under Billy Bowman. Now it's going to be his chance. He's up next. And so I thought that was a little different. You can kind of see the evolution a little bit with Peyton Bowen. I thought that was interesting during his scrum.
That's all for this installment of an OU Insider post practice blitz. I guess this is the first one of these that we've done,
Yep.
but this will be a
Yep.
semi regular thing if and when
Yep.
we get practice access throughout the fall. Once the season starts, obviously, you can expect the whole 9 yards, the full content lineup here on this YouTube channel and over at OUinsider.com. Subscribe over there if you haven't already. For Brandon Drum, I'm Parker Thune. We'll talk to you again soon.